Hello, I'm Rick Folbaum, news anchor at WANF in Atlanta, and welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting. The 2026 debate series was made possible by grants to the Atlanta Press Club from the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation and the Robert Charles Loudermilk Sr. Foundation. This is the debate for Democratic candidates running for Georgia Commissioner of Labor. We have two journalists who will question the candidates. Mirtha Donix-Dorg is a business reporter at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Adrienne Murchison is a journalist at Supporta Report in Atlanta. I'm going to kick off today's debate asking each of the candidates to introduce themselves and tell viewers why they should be Georgia's next Commissioner of Labor. Candidates will have 60 seconds to introduce themselves, and we will go in alphabetical order, starting with Nikki Porcher.
Good morning, Georgia. My name is Nikki Porcher, and I'm running to become your next state labor commissioner. I'm an Air Force veteran, a former public school teacher, a mother, a small business owner and advocate, but most importantly, I'm a Georgia who understands what it looks like when work no longer works. I decided to run for labor commissioner because I'm tired of what's happening here, not only at the Capitol, but also in Georgia, and we need something different, and we need someone different. I look forward to talking more about my platform, what I plan to do in Georgia, and how not only will I earn your vote, but also your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Michelle Michi Sanchez is next.
Good morning, Georgia. My name is Michi, and I'm running for Georgia Labor Commissioner because I've lived the failures of this office. I'm a mother of three, a small business owner from Gainesville, and have spent the last decade in advocacy spaces fighting for working families and helping elect progressive Democrats to office. I'm also the worker who was misclassified, harassed, and had her last check stolen. This office for too long has been treated as an administrative desk job when it was created to be a lifeline for workers. And for too long, the powers of this office have been collecting dust. I want to make sure that this office is the powerful tool for justice that it was created to be. I'm not running to manage this office, I'm running to transform it. Thank you.
Thank you. For the full set of debate rules, please visit atlantapressclub.org. Our panel will now ask a question to an individual candidate, and we'll start with Mirtha Donix-Dorg, who will ask a question for Michi Sanchez. Once again, you have 60 seconds for your response.
Ms. Sanchez, Georgia has added less than 3,000 jobs over the past year. With job growth stagnating, if you become labor commissioner, what would you do to increase the work opportunities for Georgians?
This office does not handle job creation, but this office is supposed to be a lifeline for Georgia workers when they are laid off through no fault of their own. And so I plan to make sure that this office fulfills its duty. Right now, the office is only reaching 74% of claims, unemployment benefit claims being processed within the 21 days that the federal government gives them, the benchmark. It's an 87% benchmark. And so I plan to make sure that this office is fulfilling its duty of making sure that workers in Georgia are getting every dollar that they earn on time and when they need it the most.
Thank you. Adrienne Murchison, please ask a question for Nikki Porcher.
Ms. Porcher, you've spoken about reading Project 2025 and being concerned about its impact on workers. Help voters understand the connection. What powers does the labor commissioner have that could protect Georgia workers if some of those federal changes of Project 2025 were implemented?
Thank you so much for that question. Also, thank you for sharing my research with Project 2025. It's part of the reason why I've decided to run for this office after reading what exactly was going to be happening. As the labor commissioner, it's our job to advocate and be a voice for the working people here in Georgia. When we're talking about the impacts of Project 2025, we're talking about being stripped away of our rights, being stripped away of our education, being stripped away of how safe workplaces really impact us as working Georgia. When I am elected labor commissioner, I will be making sure that I'm here for working Georgians and working Georgians first. Making sure that working Georgians understand that the Department of Labor is their lifeline, their resource, and their support system as they go to the workplace. And that happens when I am in office. Thank you so much.
Adrienne, it's your turn to ask a question of Michi Sanchez.
Ms. Sanchez, You've said that millions is stolen from Georgia workers every year through wage theft. What specific authority does the Georgia Labor Commissioner have to address wage theft?
Currently, all of the authority has been placed on the federal government, but the Labor Commissioner's Office has the authority to create its own task unit of investigators into wage theft and misclassification, and that's what I plan to do on day one. I want to make sure that this office is committed to making sure that employers are not exploiting Georgia workers across the state, which is happening every single day, and nobody is doing anything about it. I plan to make sure that we recover every dollar that people have earned and that they're owed. I've been an advocate for Georgia workers for over a decade, and I plan to continue being that advocate in this office where the most good can be done.
Thank you. Mirtha, you have the last question of this round for Nikki Porcher.
Ms. Porcher, you have never held public office before. If you become the Labor Commissioner, what parts of your professional background best prepare you for the position?
Thank you so much for that question. No, I have never held public office before, but I have worked with the government and inside the government. I've been a veteran working with the government, making sure that the chain of command and the duties were fulfilled every day for Air Force active duty and also Air Force veterans. I've also partnered with government entities through my organization, making sure that the IRS programs were implemented with small businesses, working with the U.S. Treasury Department, the FTC. So while I don't have directly candidate position with inside the government, I do know how the government works, I do know how the government operates, and I am ready to become Georgia's next Labor Commissioner. Thank you so much.
And that concludes our first round. Each candidate will now ask a question to their opponent. You'll have 30 seconds to ask your question, 60 seconds to respond, and then the person who asked the question will get a 30-second rebuttal. Nikki Porcher, please ask your question of Michi Sanchez.
Okay. Ms. Sanchez, 5 months ago, you said Democrats had used you and announced you were running for Congress as an independent. More recently, you shared campaign content containing repeated racially offensive slurs. At the time when Democrats are fighting to protect working people and build trust across communities, why should voters trust your judgment to represent them statewide in November?
I'm 100% sure I've not used racial slurs, so that's number one. But Georgians can count on me to protect all Georgia workers because that's what I've been doing for over a decade, and I'm not about to switch that up at this point. That is what I've dedicated my career to. I have proven results. I've helped flip the state for Democrats, both at the presidential level and at the state Senate level, or the U.S. Senate level. And I am committed to making sure that this office is doing what it's supposed to do in terms of making sure that workers are safe and that they are being paid the money that they're owed in a timely manner, and that we're holding employers accountable. I am the advocate that we need in this office.
Thank you, Ms. Porcher. It's your chance to rebut her answer.
Yes, if you visit Vote Porcher for GA on social media, you can see the content that we are referencing in this question. Also, Ms. Sanchez did not address the fact that she did run as an independent, saying that Democrats had used her just 5 months ago when she wanted to run for Congress. So I do believe as we are in a primary for Democrats, we need to make sure that we are electing a person who has strong Democrat values to represent the party. Thank you.
Michi Sanchez, it's your turn to ask a question of Nikki Porcher.
Okay, let me make sure I get my notes because I do have ADHD. Nikki, you say you believe work should work for everyone, and I agree. So let me ask you directly, what is your concrete plan to address wage theft in Georgia? Hundreds of millions of dollars are stolen from workers through wage theft and misclassification. If you're elected, what specifically will you do in your first year to recover that stolen money and hold employers accountable?
Thank you so much for that question. Now, I know that we keep hearing the phrase hundreds of thousands has been stolen from workers every day, but I do not know the concrete source of that information. When I am elected Labor Commissioner, I will do a full evaluation of exactly what is happening here in Georgia. So that's the first thing I'll do as soon as I'm in office. Following up with that, we will make sure that we are having our laws in place to enforce. One thing that Georgia is not doing with our current Labor Commissioner is making sure that employers are paying the fines. When I am elected Labor Commissioner, that will change.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez. It's your turn to rebut, if you'd like.
Yes. From day one, Centering working people has been my focus. I've spent over a decade fighting for workers who are being stolen from, exploited, and left behind. If I'm elected as Labor Commissioner, my first priority is making sure that we have the state-level enforcement to recover workers' stolen wages. Workers in Georgia deserve to keep every dollar that they earn. That's what I'm committed to doing in this office.
Thank you. You're watching the Democratic runoff debate for Georgia Commissioner of Labor. We will now go back to the panel, who will ask questions of the candidate of their choice until we run out of time. Adrienne Murchison, let's start with you.
Ms. Porcher, research ranked Metro Atlanta 50th out of 50 metro areas for upward economic mobility, meaning low-income children here are the least likely to escape poverty. As Labor Commissioner, what specific retraining or career pathway programs would you help reverse this ranking?
Thank you so much for that question. When I'm elected Labor Commissioner, I will be a resource. My son, when he was in high school, he decided that he did not want to go to college right away. He wanted to earn a trade. So we reached out to the Department of Labor, we reached out to the Technical College Systems of Georgia, and made sure that he got that information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of resources here in the state, but certain demographics just don't know that they exist. A Labor Commissioner who understands that resources need to reach all of our audience is how I plan to start to change that demographic and that information with that statistic. Thank you so much.
Mirtha Donistor, it's your turn.
I have a question for the both of you. I'll start with you, Ms. Sanchez. But what do you see as the Labor Commissioner's biggest challenge in the next 4 years?
I think the biggest challenge is making sure that this office goes back to the model of making unemployment benefits automatically approved. That's the way it used to be, and that's the way it should be. The onus should be on employers to prove that somebody is not qualified for unemployment benefits, because already too many people in Georgia are living paycheck to paycheck, and if they're getting fired or laid off through no fault of their own, they deserve the lifeline that unemployment benefits is supposed to be. And so that is going to be something that I'm going to work on from day one. Also, we rank lowest in terms of how much money people are given, with a cap being $365 per week for the shortest duration in the country at just 14 weeks. I will be sure to advocate to make sure that we are raising the minimum wage, which has been stuck at $5.15 an hour, and that we are providing what people really need as a lifeline.
Thank you. Ms. Porcher, your turn to answer that question, please.
Thank you so much for that question. One of the things that's missing with the Department of Labor is trust. So many people are reaching out to the Department of Labor and they're not getting a phone call, they're not getting their emails answered. They don't even know where to start when they want to file a claim for harassment or unfair workplaces. So as Labor Commissioner, I am going to bring that trust back to the Department of Labor. The last 20 years, Republicans have ruled this workforce system, and I have brought national attention to not only my campaign, but to what the Department of Labor does, not just in Georgia, but across this country. A lot of people had no idea that you elect your Labor Commissioner. Nobody knew that there was a Labor Commissioner who would be responsible for making sure that we have unemployment insurance getting to us in timely fashion. So first, I will make sure people trust the Department of Labor again, that they feel safe working with the Labor Commissioner, and that they know that Nikki Porcher is the Labor Commissioner that they can go to when they have issues. Thank you so much.
I have a question for Ms. Porcher. Georgia added just 2,500 net jobs in the last year, and a 2025 report found the Department of Labor is still not equipped to handle a recession. In 2020, Georgians waited weeks, sometimes months, for unemployment checks while the department was overwhelmed. What is the single most important structural change that you would make on day one to ensure that doesn't happen again?
Thank you so much for that question. With that comes a lot of wondering what's happening inside the Department of Labor. So I don't want to give you an answer that I cannot fully stand behind, because on day one, I need to figure out why the things are working the way they are. We saw what was happening with COVID, and the people they were not getting their checks, they were not getting responses. Nobody was helping the working people of Georgia. So my first thing when I am elected a Labor Commissioner is figuring out, why are we still operating on a system from the 1980s? Every candidate before me has said we are going to modernize the Department Department of Labor. Even our current commissioner has the false promise that we're going to modelize. But I'm not sure if modernizing means removing services or how that's going to help the working people of Georgia. So day one is figuring out what is wrong and then also telling the people of Georgia what's wrong, how I plan to fix it, and to hold me accountable because we will get the job done. Thank you so much.
Ms. Sanchez, same question to you. If we were to enter into a recession, what changes would you make structurally to make sure that the problems that Georgians faced after the recession, after the COVID pandemic, do not occur again?
My plan for this office, thank you for that question. My plan for this office is to make sure that we are staffed to the capacity that needs to be, and advocating for more funds for this office because we need to make sure that this office has the capacity to handle those types of claims and make sure that we have all the tools available to Georgians across the state, because right now we only have 31 worker centers when we used to have 53, and that's for the whole state. We have 159 counties. We need to make sure that we are accessible to everybody across this state and that we are, in fact, the lifeline that this office was created to be. I plan to make sure that this office is held accountable to making sure that we are being responsive, that we're providing the best customer service and providing people with the tools they need to be able to survive any type of recession-type situation.
Thank you. Adrian, let's go back to you. A question for the candidate of your choice.
Ms. Sanchez, what industries do you believe offer the greatest opportunity for Georgia workers over the next decade?
Thank you for that question. The industries that I believe are the future for Georgia workers are advanced healthcare, industrial, and clean energy jobs. Clean energy is so important, especially in a time when data centers are popping up all over the state, a lot of times without any public input, and we need to make sure that with climate change on the rise and these data centers taking the resources from everybody, we have the pipelines into these good-paying jobs across the state that people can access without having to go to a four-year college, and making sure that people know what is available to them in their language. And I think that those are the jobs of the future that we need to be investing in.
Thank you. Mirtha.
Ms. Porcher, one of the pillars of your campaign is accessible and affordable childcare, something that has not historically been under the purview of the Labor Commissioner. Given it is not one of the stated responsibilities of the department, how would you ensure access to affordable childcare?
Thank you so much for that. Childcare is not traditionally part of the Department of Labor conversation, and that is the problem. Childcare is a workforce issue. There are so many counties here in Georgia that do not have fair childcare, accessible childcare, or even affordable childcare. Working with the legislators in the Gold Dome is part of my process, advocating for those who understand that if I don't have someone to watch my child, I cannot go to work, making sure that those conversations are being front. As a person who was a military active duty and I had to work part-time just to afford childcare, I understand exactly the stress that comes along with that, and it layers so many ones. So what I plan on doing is having those conversations under the Gold Dome, making people understand that childcare is a workforce issue, and then making sure that childcare across all 159 counties is accessible. Thank you.
Adrian, your turn.
Ms. Sanchez, you have pledged to expand language access. What barriers do you believe immigrant workers face when trying to access Labor Department services, and how would you address them?
So I believe that, right now we do have a translation services thanks to Google on the website, but what we don't have is the rights that workers have in this state in a visible place, and that's something that needs to change because especially immigrant communities that come to this country looking for a better life, and then they end up getting exploited. They're the most vulnerable, and they need to be able to know what exactly their rights are and at what point they've been violated. And so I will make sure that worker rights are prominent on the website so that they know when it's time to file a claim and how exactly to do so.
Thank you. Mirtha.
Ms. Sanchez, during your campaign, you have highlighted your advocacy for poultry workers and your work as a community organizer. As labor commissioner, you would have to work not only with workers, but employers as well, both large and small. If you become commissioner and business or corporate interests conflict with the demands of workers, whose side would you take?
This office was created for workers, and so I believe that this office is created to protect workers, but in doing that, it also makes sure that employers who are doing right by workers are not being undercut by the employers and corporations that are exploiting workers to lower their costs, making it harder for smaller businesses to thrive and be able to keep up. And so I think the two can go hand in hand. And if somebody is being exploited by an employer, I will hold them accountable. And I think that that's the main focus that this office should do. But there are good employers out there who are trying to do everything by the book, and it's not fair that they're not allowed to thrive because we're allowing for corporate exploitation to run rampant and not doing anything about it, when this is the purpose of this office.
Ms. Porcher, let's talk about artificial intelligence and AI, which of course is already beginning to change the workforce as we know it. What role does the State Department of Labor have in helping to prepare not only workers who are currently in the workforce with their career paths in light of AI, but also those workers who are still in school and about to enter the workforce?
Thank you so much for that question. I'm chuckling because we have been preparing for this. As I traveled, I've been to over 60 counties, over 60 counties, but over 10,000 miles. And the AI question comes up. And I'm going to be honest with you and the people of Georgia. AI is here. We're trying to figure out exactly the best practices, especially when it comes to this office. People were scared about the machines, but we got through that. And we will get through this too as well. As labor commissioner, it's my job to ensure that we are using it ethically and responsibly, that we are making sure that we are managing AI to enhance the workplace. AI will not replace people. AI is here to help us, but we have to make sure that we are also in the front seat of that car. So I'm still figuring out, as labor commissioner, making sure that we are doing things correctly. And I'm not going to lie to the people of Georgia and say I have all the AI answers today, because I don't. But I want the people of Georgia to help me and help the Labor Department figure this out together.
Thank you for that. Ms. Sanchez, same question.
AI is here to stay, and automation is already taking over jobs across America. I think it is important to know that when mass layoffs are imminent, corporations have to, announce that to the Labor Department. And so knowing that ahead of time can help us to proactively make sure that the people who are about to be laid off have access to trainings that can work around their schedule, meaning at night, on the weekends, so that it doesn't cut into the work that they're doing currently, and they're able to have pathways into whatever their next steps may be.
Adrienne, we have time for one last question to the candidate of your choice.
Ms. Porcher, Atlanta is a hub for entrepreneurship and small businesses. As Labor Commissioner, how would you modernize the department to support this booming sector? And what specific programs would you introduce to ensure that they have access to skilled talent?
Thank you so much for that question. Part of our platform is small businesses are job creators, and they are being left behind the conversation. We say we are the #1 in business here in Georgia, and I'm going to make sure that that stays, but we're bringing small businesses into that conversation. The last 10 years, I led an organization, generated $6.12 million into 700 businesses through programs, through community resources, and partnerships. I plan on bringing that experience with me to the Department of Labor, making sure that small businesses have the resources not only to hire, but also to get their own partnerships with government entities as well, similar to the work I did when I was running the organization. Also making sure that small businesses know that the Department of Labor is here for you. We're so fearful, or there are a lot of people who might be fearful of raising the minimum wage, but there's a way to make that work for the job owners and also the job creators. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have for questions. The candidates will now have 60 seconds each for a closing statement. Michi Sanchez, let's start with you.
Thank you. We're living in an unprecedented time. A lot of workers across Georgia decided to take a chance on the other party because they felt unseen and unheard, and they're regretting that choice. But disappointment alone won't bring them back to the party, especially when leaders who claim to fight for us turned around and made things harder for the very people they promised to help. The truth is, actions speak louder than words. My opponent has spent her career helping Black women grow their businesses, which is important, but Georgia's already the #1 place to do business, but it ranks last in terms of worker economics and worker protections. This office needs a labor commissioner who has spent her career fighting for working families across Georgia. I've lived what's broken, and I've been fighting for Georgia workers for over a decade. I'm ready to bring that fight to this office. June 8th is when early voting begins, and I'm asking for your vote. Vote Michi, Sanchez for Georgia. Thank you.
Nikki Porcher, it's your turn.
Thank you all so much for spending the last 30 minutes with us. I really do appreciate it. As we go back into the polls, I want you to remember this. This runoff is about leaderships and trust. Who do you trust to protect your workers? Who do you trust to protect you? Who has the credibility to get the job done? I'm chuckling because my opponent tried to use the work I've done with Black women as an attack that I won't be able to advocate for all Georgians. But we have a saying that when you support a Black woman business owner, you support a whole community. And that's what the work I have done for the last 10 years has done. We've been able to generate millions not only into the direct businesses, but throughout the country, internationally, I may add. So who do you trust? Who has the credibility? Who will be a true advocate for you? Who do you want representing not just yourself, but the Democratic Party? June 8th is when early voting starts in certain counties. And also, June 16th is when I need you to go back out there and vote for me again. Nikki Porcher, Georgia Labor Commissioner.
Well, as both candidates have said, early voting starts Monday, a week from today, June the 8th. It runs through Friday, June the 12th, and Election Day is Tuesday, June 16th. We want to thank the candidates and our panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club and the Georgia Public Broadcasting for arranging today's debate. I'm Rick Folbaum. Thanks so much for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.